Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Woo!
Shabbat Shalom.
And the microphone works. Yay! Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
We begin our service tonight with a song which has become the anthem of Israel in this season. Many places in the observance of Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel this year are focusing on this particular song with the words and the music by Corinne Alal, who's a very famous, the first maybe out lesbian singer-songwriter in Israel. Ein li eretz acheret, I have no other homeland, even when my ground is burning. Though I am racked with pain, though my heart is hungry, this is my home. I can't be silent, I must remind her, until she renews her days, until she opens her eyes. Page 248. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I'm so happy to see everyone after my time away, both for Pesach and then, as everyone who's on any social media knows, I was in Israel and the Palestinian territories for a week last week. It was an extraordinary trip. It hasn't been for 30 years that Ramadan, Easter, and Passover coincide, but this year they did. And on Easter, I went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, in which the last 4 stations of the cross take place, and was able to be surrounded by Christian pilgrims at this most holy of days. I was able to be in synagogues, several synagogues for the various Jewish moments through Passover. I was able to go to Bethlehem, where, of course, Jesus was born. I wasn't there on Christmas, though, so I was out of season there. But I was there for Orthodox Thursday of Holy Week, because the Orthodox Christian community celebrates Easter and Holy Week a week later. So I got to experience Orthodox Christians doing amazing processionals through the Church of the Nativity, where Christians believe Jesus was born. And then I was in Nazareth, where Jesus grew up. So I feel like I spent this very holy time in going through all of the important places for the Christian community. And I got to be in Bethlehem, of course, with Palestinians there, and then in Beit Jala, which is a Palestinian village for a Ramadan iftar, sponsored by Combatants for Peace, which is a group of former Israeli soldiers and former Palestinian combatants who have dedicated themselves to peace. And every year they have one iftar that they sponsor, and it was so deeply moving to be there. And I brought greetings to our many CBST members who are in Israel, and I saw so many wonderful CBST members and what I like to call CBST adjacent people in Israel. And we had a CBST breakfast with many of our members, and I saw them in shul and at different places throughout my time. Throughout the service tonight, we're going to be talking a lot about Israel because the 75th anniversary is this coming week. This past week, we observed Yom HaShoah. So this is the Shabbat that happens between Yom HaShoah and Israel Memorial Day, which is Monday. And then Tuesday night is the celebration of the 75th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel. And everyone there is saying the words that we just heard in Enlia, Eretz Acheretz. The ground is burning. The situation in Israel is an existential one. And these are issues that were burning and growing for many, many, many years, but have exploded in these 3 months since this new government came to power. So tonight, during the service, we're going to be exploring that a lot more. And you saw in the lobby as you came in, signs I brought back a lot of signs from the protest I went to last Saturday night in Tel Aviv. There were 160,000 people at that one demonstration in Tel Aviv, 400,000 total around the country. That would be the equivalent of 13.5 million Americans in the street. Not once, but every single Saturday night, protesting the coup that the current government is enacting and is trying to enact. The inspiration, I've gone to a lot of demonstrations in my life. I think you have that sense. This was one of the greatest moments of my life, to be there with people who are not giving up, not giving in, insisting that the resistance has power. People were at these demonstrations that have never gone to a demonstration in their lives. I was surrounded by 160,000 people who insisted that the future must belong to people who care about democracy and pluralism. Many debates about the occupation of the West Bank, the role of Palestinians. It is surfacing in a way that I had no idea, even though I follow these things very carefully from here. Being there was entirely different. There is a consciousness explosion going on now in Israel. Kind of like what we hope for here, where people are going out into the streets, they're having political education and conversations. Nobody knows where it will lead. But tonight we'll have as our speaker from Jerusalem, Rabbi Noa Sattath will be zooming in. It's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning for her. And we're going to be talking to her about what life is like for her as an Israeli Jew who cares about peace and justice in Israel. And then, of course, after the service, we're going to be having, this is chapter 4. Thank you. Chapter 4, I hope everybody is reading and up to date in our book club for CBST's anniversary. We're up to chapter 4, which is about finding a rabbi. Where? Yes. So we're thrilled that Art Leonard, who is here tonight, and Roseanne Leipzig, who are co-chairs of the search committee, which ended up with me, will be interviewed by CBST President Sabrina Farber and myself talking about that search. So I hope everybody read the chapter, but we'll have a great discussion after the service. And if that weren't enough, this Shabbat we celebrate the final Bar Mitzvahs of this adult Bar Mitzvah cohort. So, wow, we have such wonderful smachot to be celebrating, and to honor them, and that's tomorrow. Everybody's invited back for that. But to honor the two, I'd like to invite Noemi Maslia and Sherry Clemens to light the candles. And we also acknowledge that this would have been Erica Foreman's bat mitzvah as well, that she started with them. This date was chosen with the hope that she would be able to be here and celebrate, but she was not able to make it. And the cancer, which we hate, took her away from us way too soon. But we will celebrate these two and remember Erica. So please light the Shabbat candles, and the blessings are on page 38.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik
body or spirit as we welcome angels of peace to be with us. Shalom Aleichem, page 40.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Bochem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And as you sit down, wish Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to people around. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Page 52. 52.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, nekadma fanav b'todah.
Page 62, please rise in body or spirit. Please be seated. While I was away, I listened to every service and every drash. And wow, are we lucky to have Rabbi Werber. So moving. And one of the drashes you gave while I was away was about joy, and how it's not so easy to find, and it's not so easy to hold on to. But here we are at Shabbat. The world is burning, no question about it. But it's our obligation, and Lecha Dodi gives us a chance to take ourselves through this journey from a place of degradation or humiliation or anger or despair or sadness or frustration, to imagine that we move ourselves to a different place. Not by a lot. Try just to go for a little. Set yourself up for success. Be, a little bit less miserable. And put yourself on that trajectory. So, how do we do it? We focus on the ability to move from one state of being overwhelmed, being a sense of what we don't have, what's not working right, to say we're going to make a tiny little shift in our consciousness to focus on what we do have. To focus on what we have. To focus on the blessings, not only the curses. They're not going to go away. The curses will be there. But take this time to go on this journey. Breathe in deeply. We know singing is a key part of moving from a place of being disembodied and full of despair to feeling a sense of the power of the breath, of the body, of the words themselves or the melody. So everybody, got to sing from your diaphragm. It's got to be in your body, not your throat, not your face. Maybe this will be on my tombstone instead of the Kleinbaum Schmier rule. Can't figure out which thing I want on my tombstone, but sing from your diaphragm is one of them. L'cha dodi, let us believe in the possibilities that the future will be full of hope. Page 66.
Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekam elai, lai, 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 lecha dodi, lai, 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 likrat kala, lai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekam elai, shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmi'anu ha'meyuchad, Adonai אחד ושמו אחד, בשם ותפארת ולתהילה, לי, 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 לך דודי, לי, 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 לקראת כלה, לי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי בכל המלאכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשינו מחשבה תחילה, יא לי 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 לך דודי, לי 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 לקראת כלה, לי בני שבת נקבלה, מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, ומצאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך, לי 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 לך דודי, לי לי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלך, מקורבה אל נפשי גאלה, לי לך דודי, לי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לי לך דודי, לי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לי לך דודי, לי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Yalla, Pesach, Shosaich, Berachaku, Kol Mevalaich, Yasis Alaich, Elohaich, Kisos Lev Be'ahava, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela, Yamin Usmol, Tifrotzi, Ve'et Adonai Ta'aritzi, Al Yadi Shben Parzi, Ve'nisnecha, Ve'nagila, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Boim v'shalom, ateret shchina, gam v'simcha u'v'tzola, tov emunei al segula.
Thank you. Joyce, that was just perfect. That was just perfect. Thank you. Page 72. It's so good to give thanks. We can't be reminded of that enough, right? You can't. It's impossible to overstate the power of being able to express gratitude, to take the time and the space to pull the positive thoughts of expressing thankfuls for those things in our life for which we're thankful. Please, God, give us the strength to know how important it is to give thanks. Page 72.
Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai
Page 78. Please rise in body or spirit for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Read with me on page 81. Praised are you, Eternal One, our God, ruler of all time and space, whose word brings on the evening dusk. With wisdom you open the gates of dawn. With understanding you make time pass and seasons change. You arrange the stars in the sky according to your plan. You create day and night, rolling light into darkness, darkness into light. You cause the day to fade away and bring on night. You separate day and night. Source of all forces is your name. Living and everlasting one, rule over us forever and ever. Praised are you, Eternal One, who brings on evening's dusk.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני. המעריב ערבים,
Page 86.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך אהבת, אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך אהבת, אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך אהבת, 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 תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אמן. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
And please continue with the next two paragraphs individually.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
So you may have noticed in your program that in addition to a little asterisk that's often by the composers of the song, which means arranged by music director Joyce Rosenzweig, tonight we have a special extra designation, which is the Jewish star, which means that it is a Israeli composer. So tonight we're especially highlighting composers who are from Israel to highlight some of the amazing art and creativity that comes out of that land. So for the next three prayers, as we move through, you will see that they are the prayers in the prayer book, but they will be sung to styles of popular, famous Israeli songs. And the first one for Michamocha is Sachaki Sachaki by Shaul Chornikovsky. Did I say that? I got that right? Great. And I just learned this evening, actually, that song, Sachaki Sachaki, is what many had wished would become Hatikva. Not the national anthem that we sing now, which is Hatikva, but that many in that time, as the state of Israel was forming, were hoping that it would be this song, Sachaki Sachaki. And I do encourage you, obviously we'll hear it to the tune of Michamocha. I mean, we'll sing the Michamocha to that tune. But the actual words of the song, of the poem, are about the everlasting hope, much like Hatikva, but about the hope for a better future. The hope of what Israel could be, the hope and desire and real, burning desire inside for what the land could become. And the last lines of the song, of the poem, are about nations blessing each other and being a full nation of peace. So we're on page 94.
לו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. אמן.
Page 98. What I learned when Rabbi Kleinbaum returned from her trip to Israel and the Palestinian territories, what she said to me that felt most salient, and that I think that you could hear in her introduction tonight also, is that it does feel like there is something that is changing in the land. It does feel like there are so many people who want there to be a change, who are praying for democracy, who are praying that Israel is a land that will be a home and accept us all, who are praying for peace. So as we pray our own prayers this evening and pray through Hashkivenu, I pray that whatever needs to shake out does indeed shake out, that there is indeed a change that is coming, and that people power, that power of so many showing up, just showing up and giving their feet, their voice, their heart to the land will prevail. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, L'Shalom. Let us go forward in peace.
Ushmor tzedkeinu,
Page 102, please rise in body and spirit. We'll move directly from the Chasi Kaddish into the Amidah, and that is your time to pray the words in the prayer book from pages 106 to 118, or the alternative Marge Piercy program poem on page 124, or to go deep inside yourself and pray what it is you need to pray this evening, whatever it is that's on your heart. I'll just remind you that if you're praying and you would like to insert the words for Rosh Chodesh, that'll be on page 110. It's also Rosh Chodesh Iyar tonight, so you can insert Ya'aleh V'Yavo on page 110, and we are on page 104.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועלמא דברה קילותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך ועלמא מולם ועלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן ועמה וימרו
Rikma enoshit echad. We are all one human tapestry. When I die, a part of me will die within you. When you die, a part of you will die within me. Because all of us are one human tapestry. And if one of us dies, something within all of us dies. And yet something of each person remains within us. If only we knew how to calm the hatred. If only we knew.
כשאמות משהו ממני שהוא ממני ימות בך, ימות בך. כשתמות משהו ממך בי, משהו ממך בי ימות איתך, ימות איתך. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה נשית אחת חיה, ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מימנו, משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו. אם נדע איך להרגיע, איך להרגיע את האיבה, אם רק נדע, אם נדע להשקיט את זעמנו על אף עלבוננו, לומר סליחה, אם רק נדע. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה נושית אחת חיה, ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מימנו, אז משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו. נשאר איתו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי
Say the combination of those two just broke my heart wide open. Thank you. Whew. Mishaberach imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah Rachel Bilha v'Zilpa ve'avotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yakov hu yevarech ve'rapeh et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, and Zilpa, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, bless us too. Bless and heal all those who are ill. We pray for healing for Harry Alberts, Doug Bowder, Cheryl Drayson, Logan Grace Finkel, Tony French, Lester Gribbets, Barbara Grindel, Larry Kay, Gloria Levinson, Marie Licata, Mazal Bat Margalit, Ellen Ratner, Sue Rosansky, Amy Rubin, Barbara Schultz, Merrill Soloway, Greg Terrell, and Eliezer Ben Sarah, as well as any other names that are in your hearts or in the chat or on your lips tonight. May they be blessed with a full and complete healing, a healing of spirit and a healing of body, together with all those who are ill among the Jewish people and among the world. May those who will not be healed on this earth be blessed with nights free from suffering and days filled with peace. May God grant strength and comfort to those who care for the sick. May God help us to find hope and courage as we too face fear and loss. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community, and let us say, Amen. Amen. Now we will pray both for our country, but also for the democracy of the State of Israel. And I'd like to invite up Yael Weiss. The prayer that we're going to read tonight can be found in the program on page 12. This was written by Rabbi Oded Mazur from Keilat Kol HaNeshama in Jerusalem, Israel. And this is the prayer that is being said all around the country in Israel right now. This is the prayer that they are saying to pray for democracy, to pray for greater peace and greater healing in the land. So thank you, Yael. And I'll just say, Yael is going to read in Hebrew, but please follow along in the English.
מי שברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם ושרה, יצחק ורבקה, יעקב, רחל, לאה, בלהה וזלפה, הוא יברך את אלה העומדים והעומדות על משמר הדמוקרטיה, השוויון והשלום, מקרב עמנו ובכל רחבי תבל, שאינם עומדים מנגד ופועלים לתיקון חברתי, לנוכח איום על מערכת המשפט ופגיעה בשלטון החוק. ישמרם הקדוש ברוך הוא ויצילם מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע מחלה, מכל התנכלות ופגיעה ומכל ניסיון להשפילם, לערער את מחויבותם במאבק נגד האדישות, חוסר המעש והיעדר המעורבות. מי ייתן ויצליחו במאמציהם ויהיו בהם עין טובה למען יראו עוולות, לב טוב למען לא יעמדו מנגד וכוחות למען יפעלו עבור שמירת הזכויות של כל אדם באשר הוא אדם, לכונן צדק ולהשכין שלום עבור כל אישה ואיש, ילדה וילד, צלם אלוהים בעולם. ויקוים בזכותם הכתוב, כי בגלל הדבר הזה יברכך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשיך ובכל משלח ידיך. ונאמר אמן.
Amen.
Page 138.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמא דברי קדותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וימי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם לעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובלותון דכל ישראל קודם ובהון דבשמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And now we're going to transition to a very unusual drasha or program for our, instead of a regular drash, for this Yom HaAtzmaut Shabbat, for this Shabbat celebrating the 75th anniversary of the State of Israel. And what we wanted to do was to hear voices from Israel at this moment, at this critical juncture, to make sure we're listening to voices from Israel, and we're listening to people who are in the midst right now. And we wanted to raise up some organizations that are doing this incredibly holy work at this moment. And after my week in Israel last week, I am so struck by how silent the story is here in the United States about what's happening there. I'm somebody who's pretty plugged in, and I was shocked at how little I understood about what was going on there without being there. We have so much here in the United States filling our airways, filling our news, that we're not really getting the whole story about what's going on there. So we have invited Rabbi Noa Sattat to join us, and is she online with us? Hello, Rabbi Noa Sattat, welcome. What time is it in Jerusalem right now?
2:37 a.m.
2:37 a.m. So we really owe a very big gratitude to you. And is your wife being disturbed by this?
No, she goes to sleep at like 10 p.m. and then I'm all alone, so thank you for joining me. I love being here.
Okay, well, say hello to her from all of us. We're very grateful to have you here with us in our sanctuary at 30th Street. And I want to say a word about Noa and the organization that she leads right now. She leads an organization called the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, which is kind of like the ACLU of Israel, in the simplest way of saying it. It is the oldest and the most influential civil and human rights organization. It was founded in 1972, pretty close to us. And it's the only NGO in Israel advocating across the broad spectrum of human rights and civil liberties for everyone inside of Israel and inside the Green Line, as well as in the occupied Palestinian territories. They focus on the social and economic rights, civil and political rights, Arab society, the occupied Palestinian territories, migrants, refugees, statusless people, and the list goes on. And her bio and some more information is here on page 6. And if you are so moved to do something about what's happening in Israel right now, then one of the significant things we could do as those in the diaspora is to support the organizations which are reflecting our values there. And one of them, for me, is the Association for Civil Rights in Israel. So we're having this conversation with you now. You're in Jerusalem. It's 2:37 or a little later than that in the morning. And we don't have a lot of time, but we do want to help all of us understand a little better about what's so bad about this government. This government that came in 3 months ago, help us to understand what is different that happened 3 months ago. We know that Bibi Netanyahu returned as prime minister, but give us a little sense of why this is so extreme in this moment.
Absolutely. So first of all, hello, and what a beautiful service. I am so moved. Thank you everyone for the music. It's just a remarkable service. To answer your question, we've dealt with Netanyahu governments in the past, and they've challenged human rights and equality for Palestinians and for the LGBT community for many years. But the Israeli political system is a coalition system, which means that Netanyahu has to form alliances with other parties and has to keep appeasing them in order to maintain power. And in every one of the previous Netanyahu governments, there were liberal parties that mitigated the dangers that Netanyahu sought to bring to the system. And in this election that we had on November 1st, it was the first time in Israel's history where the government is not balanced by any liberal forces. Netanyahu is actually the most liberal force in government, and he is such an extremist. So that leads to a government that is unprecedented, both in terms of the extremism and racism and homophobia of the ministers, and also with the very detailed and fierce and platform that it seeks to promote in terms of destruction of the democratic structures and also annexation of the West Bank and curtailing of civil rights and civil liberties for almost every minority group.
Can you tell us a little bit?
I'll just give some examples.
Yes.
Members of the government, the senior members of the government, are people that we in the LGBT community met many years ago. One of them is Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is a Kahanist, a student of Kahana, a Jewish supremacist. We met him in 2007 when he filed an appeal against the police for giving a license to the Pride March in Jerusalem. And he came to deliver the copy of the appeal, which usually is delivered by mail. He came to deliver it personally, and he was wearing rubber gloves when he came to the Jerusalem Open House because he didn't want to get contaminated by whatever it was, the gay vibes that we were emitting to the world. And that's the kind of persona that he is. His partner in coalition is Bezalel Smotrich, who in that Pride March, as we were granted the license, organized the bestiality parade where, in parallel to our march, they marched donkeys and sheep in the street to manifest their protest. And since then, they've shifted in their discourse because homophobia became a lot less popular. They're advocating a highly racist agenda. Through the past few months, they've they've promoted bills to promote death penalty in Israel, which we don't have, to ban access and limit access to abortions, to try and annex the West Bank, many different elements of policy that we've never had before. This government's only been in power for 3 months, and it already passed 141 laws, all of them about curtailing human rights.
And can you say something about what's being called either the judicial coup or the judicial reform or the judicial regime change? Many people here in the United States are saying, what's the big deal in changing those who appoint the Supreme Court? Here in the United States, it's done that way. So can you talk a little bit about that particular issue?
Absolutely. So the main focus of the government is changing the rules of the game, so that while our situation in Israel, when we tried to promote equality, has been very difficult before the elections, but we had certain tools that we were able to use, and the government seeks to take away these tools and in many different fronts, including free media, including trying to ban funding of NGOs like ACRI. But the main thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to dismantle the separation of powers. And what you're referring to, I think, is a lot of fake news that the government is very efficiently trying to disseminate about the nature of what they're trying to achieve. And indeed, separation of powers happens in different countries in completely different ways, but you can't cherry pick one element of the system. So we know that in the US, there's a political nomination of justices, but in the US, there is a constitution, which we don't have in Israel. In the US, there are 2 houses of parliament that are elected, and they have to approve each law, which we don't have, we only have 1. There is a separation between the president, the executive branch, and the legislature, which we don't have. And all of that creates limitations on the power of the executive branch that guarantees a certain amount of human and civil rights, not perfectly, as we're seeing now. In Israel, those separations do not exist at all. The only defense mechanism that we have when we're talking about equality and human rights is the Supreme Court, which is why the government is attacking it so fiercely. And I think that the most interesting understanding is that our colleagues at the Israel Democracy Institute have done a survey of 55 democracies and trying to understand the limitations on government. Even before this judicial coup is happening, at this stage today, the legislation has not passed today, the Israeli government has less limitations than any of the other 55 democratic countries in the world. So they're trying to extend their power, even though it is already significant, and already we don't have enough separation and enough limitations on the government.
One of the pieces of work you do is focused both on Palestinians who are citizens of the State of Israel as well as the occupied territories. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, we know, and people have argued for many years, that there's no democracy for those Palestinians who live in the occupied territories. They can't vote, they don't have civil protections, they don't have access to any courts that are civil courts, they're under a military occupation. So could you talk a little bit about that issue and how it's playing out now in all these discussions about democracy?
Absolutely. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that Israel was not a full democracy even before the elections. All right. We at ACRI, we talk about democratic institutions and a democratic sphere that existed before the elections and that we're trying to protect in order to expand it so that it really becomes a full democracy when the occupation ends. And so that has been a limit. And you know, this kind of situation is, this crisis is putting us in a very interesting position. We are so often disappointed by the court for not upholding the rights of Palestinians, and then we find ourselves defending the courts. We are in such fierce opposition against the different security bodies in Israel, the Shin Bet, the Mossad, the military, and we find ourselves really listening to the heads of these institutions as they're trying to protect democracy and finding ourselves on the same side as them. So it's a really strange situation to be in, but really the struggle for democracy is shifting the silos. And as we can see, the question of the occupation is not central in the demonstrations, but it does exist. And
I do want to point out my T-shirt that I got last Saturday night in Tel Aviv. You can see my T-shirt, which says, and this was throughout the demonstration. It was not. There is a whole section of the 160,000 people that is the anti-occupation bloc. There's also a LGBT bloc. There's also a women's bloc. They're all different groups that are coming together. And my shirt says there is no democracy with occupation. And that, well, what Noah is saying is that it's not the prominent, it's not the only, it is now starting to be part of this conversation about how can we be talking about democracy and also have a military occupation at the same time. That I did not understand before I was there, how much that is just becoming part of the conversation. Debated, argued, it's not, but it is surfacing. So go ahead, Noah, sorry to cut you off for that.
Yeah, and I think that the strength of the demonstration, as I think we experienced together last week, is really about people expressing their love for Israel and our current way of life, and getting out to the streets to tell the government, you're not going to take away what is mine, my freedom, my rights, my democracy. And that's very, and a very authentic voice in the demonstrations. And that's part of what gives them strength. The challenge is that for many people, the Supreme Court or democracy in Israel, they're not giving them a sense of wanting to protect the status quo. So that's true for, that's certainly true for Palestinians in the West Bank that don't even have the right to come to the demonstrations. It's also true for Palestinians inside Israel, the 21% of Israeli population that are Palestinian citizens of the state. It's not true for other groups such as Mizrahi Jews that do not enjoy the same level of benefits from the court. And I think that that's really the next stage is saying we cannot fight for what we had before the elections, because what we had before the elections is what led to the election results. We need to fight for a broader vision for democracy in Israel that will offer justice and rights and equality to different populations so that they can feel included in democracy and be part of protecting it.
I want to point out to folks.
In terms of Palestinians in the OPT, the current situation could develop in many, many different ways. But one of them, if we're taking the positive way that things could develop, is that we could have another elections pretty soon, within the next year, which would yield completely different results. One of the challenges in the Israeli system is that we don't have a constitution. And a constitution is really usually written in the first months of a state. It's very hard to get to a constitution once you get things rolling. But we could be in a constitutional moment now, when after the next elections we will develop a very thin constitution that I will tell you is insufficient, but it would be better than the no constitution that we have now. And if we do have that constitution, then the question of who does it apply to and who it doesn't apply to in terms of Palestinians in the OPT would be very relevant and that would be a moment of decision and conversation about these questions.
I want to also clarify something or emphasize what Noah said earlier, that this government has already taken steps towards annexing the West Bank. They've changed the laws that govern the Israeli Jews who live on the West Bank, and that's the first step towards annexing it. It's lived in this limbo state for all of these years since 1967, because once the land is annexed, Israel has to face whether or not to give the millions of Palestinians who live there the right to vote. And this government will absolutely not give them the right to vote, so then it will be an apartheid system, where Israel will have millions of Palestinians who are under their control, which they are now, but it's not technically annexed. So it's in a very fine, and one could argue, irrelevant distinction, but if they actually annex the land, which they've already taken steps, as I said, some laws have changed in order to move towards that, it would mean that it would be absolutely 1,000% clear that these people are not given civil rights. They're not given civil rights or the right to vote now, and there's a very strange legal status that they're under. That status will change, and the entire world will be unable to take any position except the one that I think many of us would agree with, that this is a nightmare. So Noah, could you say a word or two about what it's feeling like for you, since you personally, and what it's like to be there and to be these? Oh, I want to show folks to look at your front page of the. This is from 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow night will be the 16th night, the 16th week that every single Saturday night, hundreds of thousands of Israelis are going into the street. This is a picture from 2 weeks ago during Pesach, and if you look closely, it's a drone, and Noah showed me the drone flying above us taking the pictures. But if you look closely, you see a picture of Pharaoh, but the face is Bibi. So that was held in this, everybody see it on the front cover? And that's the stage to the lower left of the picture. And then you can see a big banner there that says, Crime Minister. This is a mainstream Israeli protest. This is not a left-wing only protest. Then on the back of the program, you can see a photo, and our CBST members, Debbie and Shari, are very active with this group. There's a women's group that, of course, Israel is entirely run by WhatsApp groups. And there are, I don't know how, it's just, all of these demonstrations are run by WhatsApp groups. And there's a WhatsApp group for the Handmaid's women's group. So you'll notice they're dressed like the Handmaid's Tale outfit. And they have choreography that they do in the marches. They arrive at 5:30 every Saturday afternoon, and they're told by the organizers of this group what they'll do in the march. So here you can see they're marching through. Last week, this is from, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Last week when we were there, one thing that's happened is that Ben Gvir, who Noah mentioned earlier, has been given by Bibi a private militia that will not report to any of the commanders of the police or the military, but only to Ben Gvir, who is a racist, extremist, Kahanist, loves Baruch Goldstein, who went into the mosque and killed 29 worshipers. He's now been given a private militia over which he has entire control. So last week at the march, they had all these people dressed up to look like the militia guys, and then they had the women dressed in the red come down, and the drone could take pictures, and we could see it on the big jumbotrons that they had set up, and then the women surround the Ben Gvir militia. It was such a beautiful piece of theater, of political theater. The Israeli Philharmonic has stopped doing Saturday night concerts so that they could be at the demonstrations playing. Unfortunately, we weren't close enough for me to hear them, but 160,000 people, it's a lot of people, but they have a place where they locate every Saturday night, and the Israeli Philharmonic plays. There are soldiers who are there from previous wars, and they're all gathered together under signs and carrying signs that they're from 1973, from 67. From some of you might have seen that the Entebbe group that served under Bibi's brother Yoni Netanyahu, when Bibi was trying to fly out of the country to go to Italy, the demonstrators were blocking the main road to the airport so that he couldn't leave the country, and he had to use a helicopter to get to the airport. And those men who had served with Bibi's brother Yoni, if you might remember the Entebbe raid, that they flew in from Israel a black Mercedes, which is what's his name, the dictator there would drive. Idi Amin, right? I couldn't remember his name. He would always drive in a black Mercedes. So the Israelis flew in a black Mercedes, and the Israeli paratroopers drove in this with these white cars behind it in the exact formation that Idi Amin would drive into the airport. So the way they broke the barrier to get into the airport in Uganda was that they drove in this black Mercedes and pretended to be, and drove in, and that's how they did the raid. And of course, Yoni, Bibi's brother, was killed. But they did, so the same men, now much older, these same men from the military found a black Mercedes in Israel that looks exactly like that black Mercedes. They created the formation that they use in Entebbe. And these same men who served under Bibi's brother drove into the airport when Bibi was trying to leave, and they gave a speech. They said, "We served under your brother Yoni, and he is a hero to the state of Israel, and you would shame him. He would be ashamed of you." And they had signs that said, "We came into the Entebbe airport in order to rescue Israelis from kidnappers, and we are here now, Bibi, to rescue you from your extremist kidnappers." And they gave this very, very moving speech. The same men who served then in order to make a statement. The reservists are refusing to go into reserve duty under this government. Talk about security risks for those of us who care about that. And throughout the demonstration, there's that scale of response. One group of soldiers, older soldiers, stole a tank from a monument place where it's tank so that they could demonstrate their opposition to Bibi, and they got arrested for stealing the tank. Turns out you're not supposed to steal a tank. And all the protesters went to the jail that they were being held in, chanting until they got released, and then the protesters made them a cardboard tank so that they could have the visual without actually stealing the tank. So Noah, as we close, tell us what it's like for you and what you want us, those of us here in New York City and those watching on our live stream from all over, what do you want us to hear from you about what it's feeling like and what it means to you, and tell us what you want to tell us.
So I think that the moment that we're in, you read about in history books, and I read about many, countries that have been transformed, and always was curious about how that felt to the citizens. And it's unlike what I've imagined, because it's really energizing, and the role that we can play right now is a critical role in reversing this trend. And it feels the protests have been amazing. It's very important to also note the role of the U.S. government in responding to the different government policies and really setting boundaries in a way that has never happened before. And so I think that recognizing that and giving the U.S. administration support for what it's doing right now is really critical, because I'm sure they're facing a lot of pressure to do less of that. So that's also been instrumental to the success that we've had so far. And the protests, even though the government has full majority, the protests, the international pressure, the financial pressure on Israel has led us to a reality where the attempted coup is now frozen, which does not mean that it cannot be brought back to life very quickly. But the fact that it is frozen right now is a huge achievement. And we have to continue to fight that until the government fails, and then we can get to a new election. It's a very crucial time, as things could go both very, very badly and lead to a dangerous situation in Israel, dangerous for Palestinians, even dangerous for LGBT people, and a real illiberal democracy. But it could also go the other way, and that seems more and more possible every week as the protests continue. And we really need partnership here. We need our liberal Jewish partners in the U.S. to be part of it, to join us in this call for change. And so, I urge you to get involved, to learn more about the demonstrations. There's a lot of info on the demonstrations, on the potential legislation. There'll be other pieces of legislation coming soon. I know it's overwhelming, and a lot of information. The ACRI website tries to give a very succinct summary of what is going on, and there are many different ways to learn about what's going on, and we need your involvement and your input in this. So I think it's a really exciting time to be involved in Israel advocacy, both here and in the U.S.
Thank you so much for your heart and your soul and your great work there. You're a real hero. You're a real hero for the Jewish people, for all people who care about human rights. And I just want to add, Noah's oldest child's having his bar mitzvah this Thursday. So we wish him so much mazel. We wish all of you so much mazel, and hopefully it'll be a great and joyous day.
I think it will be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You've just gotten a chance to meet a hero, somebody who is fighting the fight in the middle of the fight, who cares about the future and isn't giving up. It's amazing. I come back so deeply inspired. So let's sing some words and songs of Hallel that are both the traditional songs of Hallel, celebrating not just the Israel that has been, which has been sometimes disappointing and sometimes inspiring, but right now we have to be, and you see in the lobby outside posters that I took back from Israel and some posters that Rabbi James got. You'll see on page 7 of your program, every Sunday in New York City, there's now a demonstration for democracy in Israel. That's every Sunday at 12 o'clock in Washington Square Park. And this week is having one of the most famous singers in Israel is going to be at this protest. Achinoam Nini is going to be at the protest. Amazing. And it's a wonderful way to show up if you care about Israel, to be there and to get a little taste of what it's like in Israel. So and we'll be publicizing these, but every single Sunday, and we urge people to participate if you can. So we start with Hallel. Please stand if you are able, page 168. And we'll be seeing lots of photos of Israel now as we celebrate the power of resistance and the power of dreams.
פיתחו לי שערי צדק, פיתחו לי שערי צדק, אבוא בם אודיה, אבוא בם אודיה, אבוא בם אודיה.
song at the demonstration is this traditional Hanukkah song, Israeli Hanukkah song, but the words fit so well. We come to chase the dark away. In our hands are light and fire. Each individual light is small, but together the light is big, it is mighty. Flee darkness and night. Flee before the light. Page 5 of the program. Banu Choshech. Page 5.
חושך לגרש, בידינו אור ואש, כל אחד הוא אור קטן, וכולנו אור איתן. סורה חושך על השחור, סורה מפני האור, סורה חושך על השחור, סורה מפני האור. לא מצאתי מים באמצע המדבר, עוד לא ציירתי פרח, עוד לא גיליתי איך תוביל אותי הדרך ולאן אני הולך. לא אהבתי די, הרוח והשמש על פניי. עוד לא אמרתי די, ואם לא עכשיו אימתי. מצאתי מים באמצע המדבר, עוד לא ציירתי פרח, עוד לא גיליתי איך תוביל אותי הדרך ולאן אני הולך. תביני עוד לא אהבתי די, הרוח והשמש על פניי. עוד לא אמרתי די, ואם לא עכשיו אימתי. עוד לא אהבתי די, הרוח והשמש על פניי. עוד לא אמרתי די, ואם לא עכשיו אימתי.
Page 120 in our siddur. Psalm 122. For the sake of those I love, I call out now, Shalom, peace. Peace be with you, Jerusalem. For the sake of your holy house, I only seek your good. Page 120.
שמחתי באומרים לי, בית אדוני נלך, עומדות היו רגלינו, בשערייך ירושלים, ירושלים הבנויה, קרשכו מעלי יחדיו, ששם עלו שבטיה, עדות לישראל, להודות לשם אדוני. שמחתי באומרים לי, ושלום ירושלים, ישמעו אוהבייך, יהי שלום בחילך, שלווה בארמנותייך, למענכי ורעייך, אדברה לשלום בך, למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, הבקשה טובה. למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, הבקשה טובה.
May there be peace and well-being within your walls, tranquility within your dwelling places. Amen.
Amen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Page 140.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שברא אותנו בצלמו, ונפח בנו את נשמת חיינו, שהעמיד אותנו בלימוד תורתו, וקידשנו במצוותיה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומשה מקרוב השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום להשיב אותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, השמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Please be seated. Last night we counted the 15th night of the Omer. Page 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat hayom. Hayom shisha asar yom shehein shnei shavuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is 16 days, which is 2 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. Page 150.
Tonight, we remember the yortzites of members Jonathan Stowe, Marcelino Nieves Human, Burton Shinehouse, Roger Chung, Lawrence Schneer, Stephen Shapiro, Larry Silver, as well as family and friends Ben Vader, Clara Warshow, Leon Edelson, Dorothy Drayson, Sylvia Kaplowitz, Jim Byrne, Arthur Goldberg, David Kerman, Samuel Dreschler, Lucy D., Maya D., and Rena D. And we want to extend our condolences and love and prayers to Phil Johnson, who lost his father, Eric Johnson, Zichrono Livracha, on April 19th. Phil, our thoughts are with you. And if you are observing a yortzeit or in mourning, or it is your custom, please rise as you are able for the mourner's Kaddish on page 150. Vitkadal, Vitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon, v'yamechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, v'zman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam omei omaya. Yitparach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, Shmei dekudesha, breichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran ve'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, Amen. May God bring comfort to all who mourn.
And now we invite our president, Sabrina Farber, for some announcements.
Thank you, rabbis. Thank you, Cantor. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to CBST. If you needed something to be grateful for, I see you leaving, Adam Berger and Stephen Frank. Love you. If you needed something to be grateful for, tonight was the service to come to. How many of you are feeling grateful for being here tonight and having this service in your life? Excellent. Exactly what I wanted to hear. I had to say that. Talk about cracking your heart wide open, Rabbi Werber. I need to thank our Baal Tefillah Cantor Sam Rosen. Thanks to our service leaders, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum and Rabbi Yael Werber. Thanks to our ineffable music director, Joyce Rosenzweig, for elevating our tefillah, along with the CBST Community Chorus. How great are they? And now we all know that Joyce's secret weapon is none other than Kabbalat Master Rabbinical Intern Eliza Schwartz. Next time, Eliza, you have to get credited in the program, okay? Because this is, enough is enough. All right, step up to the union. And hats off for making all the tech work across platforms and time zones. I know that was difficult. Thank you so much to Rabbi Noa Sattath and to Rabbi Kleinbaum for a deeply, deeply moving conversation about Israel. Thank you so much for the pictures. Thank you so much for the words of wisdom and advice, and it was just so powerful and so meaningful. Thanks so much to Gomez and Sarah for welcoming duties, and thanks to Sharon on chat and to Better Events for all things tech. Join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for our Liberal Minyan services, where, as Rabbi Kleinbaum alluded to, we will be celebrating the Adele B. Mitzvah of Sherry Clemens and Noemi Musler. And tomorrow night, join us again at 8:30 on Zoom for Havdalah. I'm going to go through my announcements really quickly. I realize the hour is late. There's a lot to come tonight. There's a lot of things going on at CBST. On Sunday, there's the Dayenu Climate Summit from 1 to 4:30 held at Temple Shari Tefillah. Go online. You can register. It's the Upper East Side. It's okay. You can go there without a passport. It'll be great. CBST's Green Team is co-sponsoring. Join us on Monday at 1:30 for a Yom HaZikaron joint Memorial Day ceremony, which will be live streamed directly from Jerusalem, so this one's all online. It's the largest Israeli-Palestinian jointly organized peace event when everyone can grieve together and stand strong in demanding an end to the ongoing violence. It seems like a perfect bookend to what we heard tonight. Also on Monday from 6 to 7:15, we'll be having another town hall for CBST members. This is about membership and more. Come 6 o'clock, members will get their invites. You have to register to get the link. I'll see you all then. And happening right after services, please join Elaine, leaders Jessica and Max. Raise your hands, make yourselves known. Downstairs, really quickly for a very brief schmooze and chat before the Oneg, speaking of the special Oneg program. As Rabbi Kleinbaum alluded to, welcome to Chapter 4 of the CBST 50th Anniversary Monthly Events. We are at Chapter 4 of our book, written by Rabbi Ayala Cohen. We're talking about the search for the rabbi. I'm incredibly privileged to be part of this group. Rabbi Kleinbaum and I will be interviewing Roseanne Leipzig and Art Leonard about what it was like. The good news is, for those of you who either weren't born then or weren't involved with CBST back then, there's a bunch of folks I see in the congregation tonight, including Michael Levine, including Michael Sonberg, including Rick Landman, including David Feinberg, who can actually verify the reality and verify the things that they're going to say tonight. So in case they make a mistake, I have my plants in the congregation who will be able to, set the record straight. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The idea that anybody remembers things the same way anyway, Sabrina, right? I mean, the number of people who have told me that they were at the original CBST service that only had 10 people. The sponsorships are all found on page 14 and 15, and I urge you to read them to yourself. There are so many tonight that we won't read them out loud, but we continue now with Tfilah L'Shalom HaMedina, the prayer for the state of Israel, on page 238 of the siddur.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo,
1st, page 249. Please stand to read from the Declaration of Independence for the State of Israel. Bibi is calling every one of the protesters traitors. That's the word that he uses. So one of the posters that's all over all of the protests are signs that say loyal, the opposite of traitor. In Hebrew, the word that's the opposite of traitor, to the Declaration of Independence. And so we read that out loud, and then we sing Hatikvah. The State of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. It will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Hatikvah, the top of page 249. Signs that say, the hope will win. Kiddush and Motzi, page 156.
יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. צברי חבריי וחברותיי לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחיל לנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. קיוונו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Sherry and Noemi, would you hold the chalot? And in good CBST tradition, we have to be connected.
Wait. Yeah. No, that's good.
Short circuit somewhere.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Our Oneg program will begin in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we will begin our Oneg program.